All right, so here we go. Welcome all. I am Marnie Stockman from Lifecycle Insights. So as you can see on the screen, we help MSPs sell to execs, not techs, by automating and dialing in your QBR process, really to help you drive upsells and new sales. And I'm a big fan of overwhelming customer success is how we like to get there. So before we dive in too much, a little bit about how we landed here. Some of you I know, some of you I don't, but so if I'm repeating myself to you, I apologize, but want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So I come from the world, I was actually a teacher and landed in working for a software company that I had used in the school system when I was an administrator and ran a customer success team of, I think it was 17 people. We did about 20 million in ARR and with a 95% retention rate. So worked a lot on getting pieces and processes in place for customer success. And in doing that, we did a lot of business reviews for our clients. Into that process, someone else I worked with and I were looking to start a business, and I ran into Alex Farling, who's another one of our co-founders, who was an MSP after a volleyball match, and I asked him if there were any good problems in the MSP managed services space, especially around the area of data analytics and assessment, because I came from an assessment analytics platform, that we could help solve. And he said, "Dear Lands, yes, I just spent 8 hours today cobbling together reports for a QBR." And then so we got on a call. So the three of us jumped on a call, and he proceeded to say lots of things around PSAs and RMMs and documentation platforms, spreadsheets, things written on Post-it notes, all the place Excel spreadsheets, of course, where all the information that went into a QBR lived. So lots of disparate data, and none of it looked the same. None of it was automated, and it was very disjointed. And could we look at creating a more friendly version of that for MSPs? So that was the start of Lifecycle Insights. And that was the original driver, was Alex wanted to be able to present faster, better, prettier looking business reviews. So since then, we've done tons of research, of course, that was years ago, on quarterly business reviews. And Datto published this last year, that there are two big drivers for growth in managed services. One is if there's a focus on increasing the percentage of income as managed services. So steering away from the break fix shop, more MRR specifically. So we're looking for managed, monthly recurring revenue as opposed to individual pieces, which all plays into a business review. And then having specific revenue and growth goals. And the quarterly business review is really how that happens, right? So it's those conversations over time that have you strategic partners with your clients that really get you to grow your business as an MSP. So we wanted to start with exactly where Alex struggled, and all of our beta clients struggled. It was cobbling together. I think that was an official term we heard when we first started out, was we cobbled together our reports for business reviews, and we wanted to stop cobbling together and put them all in one place. So we do that by automating pieces. So this is our integrations board, and I like to be really clear so that folks understand what we do and also what we don't do. I think that's just as important. So the first thing we do is we pull your assets from one of the top line. So one of the integrations in the top row, you really need to have one of those. We're always building more. So if you don't have one of these, you should definitely put in the chat what PSA you are using, because we integrate with PSAs or IT glue. We don't integrate with RMMs because the RMM is typically feeding a PSA, and we don't want to have duplicate information. We want to make sure you have your source of truth, and we will pull from that. So we integrate with Autotask, ConnectWise Manage, IT Glue, Synchro, and Halo PSA. After that, we grab your data to start building reports. When we first started doing this, folks had and freely admitted that their data was bad and they weren't even sure how to go in and clean it up. So when I dive into the platform, I'm going to show you what that looks like. But part of cleaning up that data is we do warranty lookups. So we do warranty lookups on Dell, Lenovo, HP, Microsoft Surface, Cisco SmartNet, and Meraki. So that gets a lot of folks like one-stop shopping for warranty lookups along with the other reports that we do. So I'm quickly going to show you screenshots of them and then we'll dive in and walk through the pieces. But when I get through this next piece, I'd really like you to think about what of this intrigues you. So if you have questions, I can go down that path. So as I mentioned, we pull over to a dashboard where we'll give you insights around those upper two data quality fields are all around your missing data, so we can help you clean it up if we can't find the warranty lookup. We give you information around when assets are expiring at an end of life. We really started with that as our premise to give you good asset reporting. And that is exactly what I'm showing now is our asset list and some of the fields that we pull for that. And I'm going to show you more about coloring. I mentioned at the beginning that we help MSPs sell to execs, not techs. And part of that is the execs don't really care about most of what's not colored in that file, right? They don't want to know the serial number, but they want to know, you know, the serial number. They want to know, okay, if red is bad because those assets are at end of life, what do I need to do to fix it and what's that going to cost me? So we allow you to manually, so we automate all of the asset piece. Our assessment piece is manual. So this is the interview questions, discovery questions. You could do pre-sale, post-sale, upsell, QBR. So this is really where you ask and or answer the questions for the clients if they don't know how to answer them. But it really helps you highlight, and we'll dig into this, where their concerns are, their business pains are, so that we can connect it to that asset list, because they care very much about their business pains, maybe less so about line iteming specific assets. So we tie these together into a project. So at the bottom here of this report, I'm grabbing the business pains from an assessment and aligning it to an asset that is causing that problem. So it makes a very consumable project for your client to understand, oh, if I want to solve these problems, I must do this thing. And then I'm also showing just a quick screenshot of our scheduler. So it's no surprise that cybersecurity sells, and everybody needs to be doing cybersecurity risk reviews for their clients right now. But part of that process is that you need to be a strategic partner with them, and you have to repeat it. So you have to set up a cadence. That's what the standards say, CMMC, NIST, all of those, right? Expect to keep regular asset lifecycle management up, et cetera, and those conversations. And we're hearing more and more about cyber liability insurance requiring these meetings for folks to get cyber liability insurance. So really to be able to schedule business reviews, see when they're coming, and schedule them at a cadence that's appropriate with a client. We call them QBRs because the industry really forces us to. Google SEO really forces us to. So, but instead of quarterly, some of them don't need it quarterly. Some need it monthly, some need it annually, semi-annually, and we allow you to do that. So I like to say that the Q in quarterly in QBR stands for quality instead of quarterly, because we know not all of them will be quarterly. So with that, if you want to share in the chat, whether assets, assessments, or all the things is your biggest priority in joining today, or if you just heard that we give out shot glasses at shows, that's fine too. But what brought you to the table today? I'd be curious. I'll make sure I focus on those pieces. So if you want to put that in chat, I'd love to hear it. If not, I'll just keep calm and carry on and walk through a bit of the platform. So as I mentioned, if you sign up for Lifecycle Insights, the very first thing you will do is integrate with your PSA or IT Glue. We do have a 30-day free trial. So we have a lot of folks that just like to plug in and take a look at what their data looks like. So if you are the, I want to dive right in and check it out for myself kind of person, The base package, which allows you to do this for 5 clients, I just put in the chat the link to that, is free for 30 days. So when we go and grab your data, you'll see that I get to select my clients, and in the upper left-hand corner, I've got a picker that allows me to choose each of my clients. And as I do, you can see that my dashboard refreshes, and I can really tell where the data is strong and where the data is weak. I also see things like total tech debt. And these are all of the assets for this particular client that are about to expire or expired. And so really where my opportunity is. So you can see in home inspection services, I've got $5,400 worth of total tech debt versus creative designs. They've got $46,000 worth of tech debt. So if I'm prioritizing where my work may need to fall, where my VCIO or account managers need to spend some time, this seems like there's good opportunity here. The piece that we like to point out that I mentioned at the beginning is when folks first plug into the system, sometimes that data quality score is not great. And we go do those warranty lookups for you. So we will, again, Dell, Lenovo, HP, Microsoft Surface, Cisco, Meraki, and SmartNet. We'll pull that information in. And if you have checked the box, we will push it back to your PSA as well. But we let you decide if you want us to write over or which one you would rather use in the situation. I can also click on my missing any report, and I can really see in blue where I'm missing critical data in order to run reports for my clients. The 2 most important fields in this report is the end of life and the replacement cost column, because our ultimate goal is to create a budget forecast for our clients. Especially now at the end of the year, there's a lot of value in being able to deliver this information to your clients for a couple reasons. One, there's end of year spend down money, especially if folks have gotten some of the COVID funding, that they may have some extra funds and they need to spend it on, an asset that may, tax deductible asset. This is a good time to grab them for that. And the other piece is, as they're forecasting next year and the following years, you want to be able to be in that strategic conversation. So let me dive into the asset list and we can take a closer look at what we see there. So the asset list, allows you to answer a lot of questions around end of life for the asset, end of warranty expiration date, even operating systems, etc. So in Lifecycle Insights, we have a feature called swatching. So everywhere in the platform where you see the little swatches of color, it's stoplight reporting, red, yellow, green, right? Red is bad, green is good, blue is unknown. You can query this much like an Excel spreadsheet on steroids without having to actually create the pivot tables. So I could ask a question like, where do I have warranties that are expiring? So red or yellow, but devices are not at end of life. So I unchecked the red. So this is where I may want to go discuss purchasing, manufacturer warranties with my client, because these devices are not nearing end of life. Maybe some of the ones that are in yellow have just a month or 2 left. So you may want to take that chance without a warranty, knowing that they're going to replace it in a couple of months if they stick to your standards around replacement refresh cycles. While I'm talking about refresh cycles, let's talk about what that looks like. I'm going to go over here in the left-hand column down to account settings. And in account settings, I'm going to take a look at asset type policies. So we give you canned policies right out of the gate that you completely can customize. So we give you a place to start, and you really should make it your own. So we start with some fairly typical asset types, along with a default replacement cost and a default lifespan in terms of number of months. So you can see that globally in our imaginary demo site, our workstations cost $1,300 with a default lifespan of 60 months or 5 years. You can drill in and change that. If your policy is 3 years, you could make it 36 months, and everything would recolor based on that. I have a lot of partners tell us, okay, so the majority of my clients are on a 3-year refresh cycle or a 5-year refresh cycle, but I have that one nonprofit that really wants us to try to get 7 years out of a workstation. Completely fine. You can see up here, I have global settings. If I click on company settings, then whichever company I choose in the drop-down picker, I'm going to change the defaults just for that company. So I could go in and say, okay, you can see that I did that here. Creative Designs is a high-end design company, so their workstations cost $2,000 instead of the $1,300 default. So that'll change it for the company. And then along with that, there's always somebody like me at the company. So everybody makes fun of me in the company because they're all PC users and I'm a Mac user. So I have to have a more expensive device. So we could drill into my asset and say, well, if normal replacement costs are $1,800, mine's going to be $2,200 because I have to have that upgraded Mac or whatever. So I'll pause here so you can kind of take a look at the asset information that we're pulling direct from your PSA. And when I was a teacher, I wasn't good at wait time, so I'll take a sip. So I really do give you a second to look at it. At the bottom here, you can also see when I hover over the warranty details, what we're finding when we go out and do your warranty lookups. So you're able to see as soon as your warranty gets close to an expiration date and you get to set 1, 2, or 3 months out, we'll start going out nightly and looking to see if you've added a new warranty, and we'll find it for you and replace it in the platform. So once it's plugged in, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So there are lots of things you can do inside the asset list, but I'll pause there and move on to the next one. And I'll keep an eye on the chat box. So if you have any questions, just put them in there and I'll be sure to get to you. I'm going to go down the list, do most of the reports in this top section under company reports, because these are all specific to the company in the drop-down picker. The reports that you see under MSP reports are aggregated across all of your clients. So let's take a look at the user list. The user list, so I mentioned our primary integrations. In that second row that you saw, we had some secondary integrations. So we have both Microsoft 365 and LineGuard, and they come into play especially here. If you have LineGuard, we know you have prettier data. We see that regularly. The missing data is always a lot less, much cleaner to start with. And you'll see Chrome devices and mobile devices that LineGuard's able to pick up that RMMs do not pull over. But you'll also have the ability to have extra columns here. But let's talk about what most folks have, which is their PSA. So if this was IT Glue or Autotask, it would have a column around that, as well as Microsoft 365. A healthy user would be like this fifth one down that is green in both. They are both in ConnectWise and in Microsoft 365. But again, you can use that swatching to your benefit. And I'm going to uncheck the green for ConnectWise. So now look at all of these users that are not in ConnectWise, but are in Microsoft 365. Does that mean I'm not billing for a user? Does that mean I'm not securing a user? Or does it mean I have expired licenses or not? I have active licenses in Microsoft 365 where folks have already left the company, et cetera, and aren't actually using it. So this last activity date is handy for that. Sometimes you'll see a never there. And you really want to have that conversation at your business review of who are these users that aren't in either of the two systems. I'm going to skip budget forecast for a minute and jump down to contracts. So contracts just had a release last week. So we now have the ability to import contracts or agreements directly from ConnectWise. And very soon we will have the other three PSAs available as well. So Autotask is next, then Synchro, then Halo. So they will be out within this month. So I can import my agreements from there as well as add a new contract. I'll click into one just so we can see what that might look like. So when we pull over a contract, the reason we would want to do this is to be able to provide a full IT budget for your clients. When you can give a total cost of ownership for technology, it does a few things. First, if we can pull over, say, their VoIP provider, if their VoIP provider is not your preferred VoIP provider, when their contract is expiring for you, you could go approach them and see if they were interested in looking at one that you're more readily able to support, which would bring more MRR to your business and align them more to your stack, which we know is more secure, scalable, and supportable. The other piece is they find you to be a huge strategic partner when you can deliver that budget of not just your services, but all of their technology. So they get a full scope of the technology and the expenses, not just in a single next 3 months, but to be able to spread it out over the next 6 years, et cetera. So you really can dive in and add as many contracts as you would like to this. And the purpose of that, like I said, is so that you can populate the budget forecast. So the budget forecast, we give you two options. We could do in a quick detail view that'll really line out all of the assets in each of the asset categories, as well as contracts and subscriptions, and even projects, which we'll get to in a minute, that you have coming up for a particular client. So that's the detail view. Or in a spreadsheet view, you could do this, all of these, you can do monthly, quarterly, or yearly. So we see folks doing a 6-quarter detail view and a 5-year more of a spreadsheet wide angle view, so that you could say, you typically spend $15,000 a year with us, but in 2 years you have a server coming due, and that'll be an additional $10,000. So I'm sure you have all sat in conversations where someone has felt blindsided by that information, and that became more of a conversation around whether or not they were going to pay that expense, rather than the proactive version where you're saying in 3 years, this will be an expense. So how are we going to budget for it? Do we want to move assets around? Do we want to talk about moving it to the cloud, right? And spreading out the cost, hardware as a service, et cetera. So really providing that broader budget just lets you have more of a strategic conversation, and they feel less like you are blindsiding them along the way. And even when you're in this view, if you want to drill in and take a look at the details, you can. So you can see that there are projects on this particular budget. I'm going to get to how that happened after we look at assessments, because projects really ties everything together for a company in the same way that it ties it together for you, right? You are solving a company's business pain by doing a project for them. That's exactly how we see it. And it's definitely a differentiator for Lifecycle Insights. So I'm going to jump to assessments next. With assessments, it is completely flexible. You could start from scratch and build all of your items. If you have an assessment you're already using, you could import it into the platform, not a problem. What most folks do is take one of our preset library of assessments and edit from there. So I'm going to go in and show you kind of what that library looks like. So we've got these down here. Are the ones that you can import into the platform. And I will tell you that the 3 most popular in order are the Lifecycle Insights LCI default assessment, the maturity model security risk assessment, which is a lot of the same items, but it really, if you're starting companies from scratch that have a lot of work to do, this is a very palatable assessment because it helps you take them in bite-sized chunks and work their way through more and more secure. And some of them will get to stop after a couple levels versus your HIPAA compliant folks who need to be at level 5, your defense contractors, those types of things. And the third assessment is our pre-sales assessment. The pre-sales assessment is a pared down version of the default assessment where you wouldn't have access to the platform. Again, we do not have an agent on any machines This is more like discovery items, right? These are interview types of questions. So the pre-sales doesn't go out and automatically score it for you. This would be from your discovery conversations with the client. This is how you answered the questions. I'm going to dive into an actual event with the default assessment, but we'll do that from inside an event instead of the template. So unlimited number of assessments. And the nice thing is we track these assessments over time as well. So you really get a good sense of what is going on in a client when you start watching the same items go from green to yellow to red as an asset ages out, and then comes back, when you do a project to refresh them. So for each item, you can see, you can score the item. If you need to add responses or options or edit any of these, you can. You can show scoring instructions. So a lot of folks link to like their IT Glue, IT Boost documentation here. You can give tips. If you have multiple VCIOs, CSM salespeople within your team, and you want to say like, okay, when we answer this question, here's suggested remediation. If the answer isn't green, that's a great place to keep that. You can also add private comments. Maybe after the QBR, you could have the comment of, all right, we discussed this. They understand it's a concern. They didn't have budget priority. We really need to push on this next, next quarter. You can also add public comments or show previous responses. So here I can see this has been read 2 quarters in a row. So we really need to address this now. And the public comments I already have open, and I can see that I built a replacement project quote for them so that hopefully they finally take this particular piece seriously. I'm going to show you this report because this is, there are several different versions of the assessment summary, but this is without a doubt one of the most popular reports that folks print out along with the budget. Let me just open it a couple times. There we go. So here is the assessment. And the nice thing about this is that the clients very much appreciate the high level overview and the fact that they understand in red, yellow, green exactly where their issues lie. And you can dive in and say, okay, so hardware was our biggest concern. Let's go look at all the items in that category. And when I do, I can see that, well, that makes sense. I've got a lot of red here. I can see why we need to address some of these pieces. And the appendix of this report, I'll jump down to, which allows, it pulls automatically all of the red items along with their summaries, so why they are red, and any comments. So if you had put links in here, recommendations, etc., that would pull up in this report as well. So this is certainly effective in terms of a QBR and having the conversation of what needs to happen next. And that is really where projects come into play. So I'm going to stay in the assessments pane and look at the second tile over, assessment analytics by customer. And when I do, first, a couple pieces, this always wins for sure when you can show a customer this. If I gave a baseline assessment and then a comparison to be able to say, okay, we haven't started working for you yet, and right now your technology health is at a 48. We're going to recommend 3 projects today. If you accept these projects when we're finished, your technology health will be at a 73. We will still have work to do, but we'll be moving in the right direction. And you can see where the focus was because maybe their business applications were insecure or very inefficient, and you've helped move them with those projects from a 63 to a 92. Of course, many folks use the analogy that it's like health. You'll never be all the way green all the time, right? We're going to aim to get healthier. And if something slips because things age out, we're going to work to replace them and get them healthier again. So we had a lot of partners that asked us for this report because they wanted to be able to show the ROI for their clients. So they didn't have to have that conversation. Everything's working. Why do I need you? Well, this is the work that we're doing in the background to keep your technology healthy. The other reason I brought you to this page is so that I could show you that connection that we make in projects. So if I take a look, these are all of my assessment items, and I'm going to grab 3. And I'm going to, you can see I have a button up here that says create projects from selected items. So I'm going to grab those items and they automatically populate at the bottom of the project. The idea here is this is the business pain that your customer will understand. I can then link assets to this because I am claiming that these pesky Windows 7 machines that I'm sure none of you have at your clients, but our demo client definitely does. These Windows 7 machines are causing a problem, and I am going to pull them over so that I can say we can solve these problems with a $9,300 project and replacing these assets. You, of course, could add additional labor, right? We're going to have to maybe some additional materials. Maybe we need a couple monitors to boot. And I could even, let me save this. I can even add a recurring cost. So if some of these assets are coming with new humans because they've got new users on their end, you could add a recurring cost to this particular project. The nice thing about this, as you build projects for your clients, is that they will get a list of projects that you can, prioritize, et cetera, and build a roadmap for them of what year and quarter, so that every time you go to them, you can present this view of, remember, we talked about, we agreed to scoping this project for Q1 of 2022, et cetera. So that's really the power of assessments and all of the asset information pulled together in projects. And those projects do also feed into the budget forecast. If an asset is on a project, it doesn't land in the budget twice, right? We account for that, so that really the budget forecast gives them a good view of their actual expenses of what they're going to need moving forward. So one more piece on this top part, and that is around business reviews. But I'm going to go into the business review. Actually, I'll go in straight through here. So if I go into the business review for this particular client, you can see notes that I've taken along the way, artifacts for particular quarterly business reviews. So if your CSM or VCIO changes, you'll have all the information in one place. And I can dive in and see who my attendees were, right? I can add folks from their team. I can add folks from my team that were in the business review, et cetera. I can upload artifacts, all of those pieces and parts. And I could also add a meeting. So I can add a scheduled meeting right from the scheduler, which I'll show in a second, or I can create sort of one-off touch point meeting if we wanted to. So that is nearly everything in this top section, with the exception of Report Builder. So I'm going to pause for a second and just ask you to reflect for yourself on, if you were doing a business review, which components here would you include in your review? Would you include all of them all of the time? We have some folks who do an annual review, and that annual review is 2 hours long, and it is every bit of these components. And then they have quarterly check-ins. That's a smaller subset. Whatever that is for you, you have the ability to create kind of an easy button so that you can automate your QBR process, client after client after client. And that is the notion of Report Builder. So I know the invite to today said automating QBR, and this is sort of the magic behind stacking those components. You have the ability to build this from scratch. So I'm clicking on the Add Component field, which would allow you to pull in an agenda template, an asset list, any of the reports that I just showed you, Microsoft Word files also. So if you have something that does live in another system, you certainly could pull that in, screenshots, et cetera. But we really try to put all those QBR components right in the platform. Instead of building that in front of you, I'm going to show you what happens if you save a template. So I'm going to grab Alex's favorite template. And in Alex's favorite template, we've uploaded a cover page, We've uploaded our agenda, that assessment summary. So this is the same assessment summary we saw earlier. We've got a hold harmless doc. We've got 2 versions of budgets that pull over. And this is where I like to point out, however I set this up will be exactly the same across my clients. So this is Creative Design's 6-year budget. And when I click on Get Well Medical, it's building the exact same report with the exact 6-quarter budget for them based on their asset information. So this is true for all of the pieces, including their assets. So you can see I have already pre-swatched so that these are the assets where the warranty is expiring and the assets are at end of life, etc. Same thing for users and their contract list. So the nice thing is once you've built this component, in the upper right-hand corner, I can download this to Word, print it out, bind it if you want, and take it in for a face-to-face. You could email it, or in the world of Zoom, we've had so many folks say, I just am tired of cutting and pasting into PowerPoint slide decks, and aren't we all, that we built a presentation system for it. So now you can pull that entire stack of reports right up in front of the client, and now you're walking through their report without having to screenshot everything into a PowerPoint. And the other beauty of this is really that while we're in the report, and I'm sure this has happened to many during a business review, is that the exec was listening when you went through the budget, and not you've shown it again, and they say like, wait, what network equipment am I trying to replace in January to December 2021? Now you can click in here. You don't have to dig back through and find the information because it's all dynamic. So I can see all of the pieces and parts that were in my, reporting, but now they show up again on the screen. And if I want to add in, an extra tile, I can still swatch things back in and out. So that's really the automation piece comes between the ability to pull over all of that asset user warranty lookup information, as well as create a stack for yourself of the components that belong in a quarterly business review, so that when I click this button for company after company, I can build that review over and over again for a really scalable, consistent process. We have so many folks tell us, I have everything else in our MSP with a process in mind, and my quarterly business reviews does not have one. So they like to use Lifecycle Insights to kind of cure that ailment. So I'll pause here for a second and see if there are any questions on that piece before I wrap up with the MSP reports. All right, we're looking good. If I see questions pop up, I will tend to them. So the MSP reports, I mentioned that these were aggregated. So data quality shows you how your data quality across all of your clients. So you could really say, oh, these first clients are really in good shape for a business review, but I do have some places where I need to clean up some data before maybe I think about going to Hunter Lodge. So that's, a reflection aggregated of that data quality piece. Asset Ad Hoc, we see a lot of reasons for folks using this. One could be, oh, I was given a specific serial number. I got the Dell notice that said this serial number is up for warranty renewal. You could just drag click the serial number, enter it here, and you'd find out which client had it. More often we see something like, let's grab make and say, show me where all of my sonic walls are, because I want to replace them with whatever new, item is available. So I can see that I've got 5 sonic walls at Creative Designs and 2 at Hunter Lodge. And I didn't have to go into each client to figure out who owns sonic walls, especially if you're upgrading, a firewall filter, whatever it could be, you can search for it that way. And sometimes you just want to search across all clients for a particular operating system because you're going to need to do refreshes, etc. So that's what the asset ad hoc report is for. Project roadmap is projects across all of your clients. So this is really internally. So this is how much are we bogging down the engineer team and the technical team to build projects. You can see quarterly kind of the spend or the funding that you will have. And if you know you typically can sell $80,000 worth of projects in a quarter and deliver them, you know that your Q3 is just about full and we should start, pushing projects to Q4. Microsoft 365 gives you licensing across all of your clients. So this is a very quick but easy report to be able to deliver and say, why does People R Us have 2 available licenses? Are they paying for them? That shouldn't be. One of our MSPs integrated with Microsoft 365 days before they did a quarterly business review, and they found out they could save their clients about $600 worth of licensing when they did this as they were transitioning to them. And so that was a big win for them. They paid for their Lifecycle Insights subscription in the first day. So that was nice. And then lastly, the scheduler. So this is really where you can grab all of your, let me grab earlier in the year so that we can take a look. I've missed a lot of QBRs in my imaginary demo environment. Hopefully you haven't missed that many in your real one. But you can see that here I can schedule them out. So I could say creative designs. This will look familiar because I was here before. I could change the schedule settings and say, I want them to go from quarterly to semi-annual, annual, monthly, etc. But this is really for you to get a high level view of where everyone is scheduled. And you can also grab, if you assign yourself to them, you can only show the ones where you're attending. So if you have multiple VCIOs that are delivering QBRs, they can really parse them out. So they're only looking at their own pieces and parts. So that is the main bells and whistles for Lifecycle Insights. But I will take us to the pricing page because that's usually the first question that's asked, other than the 30-day free trial, which I put into the chat already. So we are based on number of active customers, not how many active customers you have, how many you choose to use in Lifecycle Insights. So you could have 300 active customers, but say I'm going to start with 5, start there and move your way up. If you've looked at the testimonial on our website, you'll hear William talk about in his trial, he sold $100,000 worth of projects just by using the asset list and telling his clients they really need to get the red out and needed to do some asset refreshes with projects. So we feel like that's a very consumable subscription price that we kind of guarantee it. If you don't make money, if you do a QBR in your first 30 days with us and you don't make enough to cover that, we'll give you the second month free just to make sure you get there, because we're really confident that if we can help you dial in your process, it's better business for you and for your clients because you really become a strategic partner for them. So hopefully I've answered any questions that you have, but I did want to make sure I wrapped up at 2:45 so that I could answer any additional questions if you had specifics in the platform you wanted to hear or see more about. So you can put in the chat to all or to me, either is fine. Oh, good question. Okay, so I got a chat to me that asked about onboarding. If you want to onboard, there are 3 ways you can do that. The first is if you're a do-it-yourselfer, and we made sure we could do this because we get a lot of folks that sign up in the middle of the night, actually. So in the platform, you can click in the onboarding checklist that'll really walk you through the pieces for onboarding, including getting down to, so the first few are the onboarding, and then we give you some tips on scheduling reviews, doing data cleanup, etc. We offer weekly new to Lifecycle Insights meetings, and we record those if you can't be there live. Those are group meetings. If you can't be there live, you can type new to LCI in help, and the recordings will populate so you can check out those recordings and kind of follow through the steps. And we also always offer free onboarding assistance with one of our adoption specialists. So after you sign up, you'll get a note that has a calendar link that you can sign up. So there's no cost for onboarding. We really quite like helping MSPs fit their process in, fit our platform to their process. Really, we don't have a set do this. We want whatever works for you and is your secret sauce to work for your business review. That said, we do offer boot camps to train folks on business reviews if you're just getting up and running with them and would like to see best practices, that type of thing. Good question. Thank you for that. Any other questions for me? All right. I didn't see any more pop in, but it's good to see some familiar names in the chat. So hi all. And if you're new to us, I hope to see you again and get everybody life cycling. That would be great. So everybody have a good one, and I'll be sure to send this recording out to all. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.